Well, welcome to this episode. With me, as always, is Luke.
Hello. Glad to be
So,
back.
sorry, life got a little busy, and we had to take a little spring break.
Yeah. I
So, to
think I
make
think everybody I know has been a little crazy for this time of year. So
it absolutely has been. So, with that being said, we're actually going to do two movies in one. So, just a little behind the scene, we actually talked about doing these movies last fall.
yeah.
So it wasn't like recent events was the reason for choosing to do the original 1984's Red Dawn and the 2012 remake. So I just want to throw that out now, so it's not like, oh, it's because of recent events, that's why they're doing it this time. No,
All right. Yeah,
no, we
we had
really
totally
wanted to
talked
do
about
this.
doing it. Yeah.
So with that being said, which one do you prefer? The classic
I,
or the remake?
I still prefer the classic. I think for me part of it's just the whole, back in the 80s, I enjoyed all the US against Russia movies and stuff. I mean, from this to your Rockies to some of the Stallone picks out there. And I mean, it's just and that's part of it. I like the whole Russian vibe. Plus, I like the original cast a lot too. I'm a big fan of the original cast. So
Well, okay. I agree with you for the most part. I I'm also a fan of that end of the Cold War,
yeah,
uh, U.S. versus Russia. There's so many we could kind of pull out that have that kind of theme to them,
yeah, we got a lot of good movies because of the Cold War. So
and we got a few that weren't so great.
oh yeah,
But now, did you know that this is the very first PG-13 released movie?
I thought it was Temple of Doom.
No, this is the first theatrically released movie
Huh.
with a PG-13 rating.
I
Now, it's not the first one to receive the PG-13
okay.
rating, and that too was not our indie film. It was actually the Flamingo Kid.
Oh
So, but Flamingo Kid actually got shelved for about 5 months before it got released. That's why
huh.
we have our very first PG-13 movie.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
So now you were talking about the cast, so let's just, because I want to kind of throw it in. Uh Three of our Wolverines in this movie starred in an earlier movie together. Do you know which three I'm referring to, and what is the movie?
Um, are you talking about The Outsiders?
Yes. And who are they?
And you got Charlie Sheen, Patrick Swayze, and C. Thomas Howell.
You are absolutely incorrect. You
Oh,
have two out of the three.
well, Swayze and Sheen were in it, weren't they? No,
Wrong, Sheen
no.
brother.
Yeah, Emilio Estevez.
Emilio! Yes.
Uh, dang it.
Carlos was not in this. In fact, this is Carlos, or as he was known at the time, Charlie Sheen's first theatrical movie.
This was?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Gosh. Huh. I had no idea.
I didn't until I dug up the
Yeah.
research.
Wow. That's cool.
So obviously, we have Patrick, we have C.
Yeah.
Thomas Howell,
Yeah. He's Pony Boy.
Pony Boy, uh, Daryl,
Yep. Daryl.
and then Darren, who Darren Dalton was the Soch Robert. And
Oh, yeah. Okay.
the first one. Here he plays Daryl, the mayor's son,
Right.
and the mayor in this one was played by Lane Smith, who I know Luke wasn't part of this episode, but we did talk about Lane Smith a lot last March when I started that NASA series.
Oh,
So
sure.
he was. So what other movies do we have that this cast
I was going to
created
say
together?
Dirty Dancing, you know.
Okay, yes. For that we have
Sweet.
Patrick and Jennifer Grey,
Yep.
which I want to touch on a little bit. That in the original script of the movie or outline, Jed and Jen's character of Tony were supposed to be romantically linked. And we kind of saw a little brief scene of it
Right.
towards the end of the movie, but we didn't see anything leading up to it. So that moment just felt really out of place and awkward in some ways.
Yeah.
And if you forgot that this came out before Dirty Dancing, you would think it was because of
Right.
Dirty
'Cause didn't
Dancing.
they get I thought I heard during Dirty Dancing they didn't like each other or something at some point, or there
Yeah,
was some
they didn't really get
headbutting.
along,
Yeah.
partly because Patrick really stayed in character during this movie. And I think that memory kind of stayed with Jennifer going into Dirty Dancing. So the last movie connection we have with castmates here, do you know which classic from the 80s I'm referring to?
Well, I keep thinking that there's a movie with Charlie Sheen and Leah Thompson, but
Fair guess. What if I say it's still Jennifer Grey
hmm,
and Charlie Sheen?
gosh, they were in
You
Navy SEALs together. What was it? I'm blanking.
Bueller.
Oh yes, Ferris Bueller's Day Off in the police station. That's right. God,
In
yeah,
fact, it's because of Jennifer, they needed somebody to fill that role. And she's like, hey, have my friend Charlie come in and do this because it was a 1 day
yeah.
scene.
He was perfect for that role in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He just nailed it.
So that is our trifecta connections. Now I do want to point out there was a additional scene filmed, and I was going to start looking, see if I could find it and play it for us, but honestly, knowing about it, I almost don't want to see it. And that is there was a filmed love scene, and I kind of want to see it because of what is a PG-13 love scene from 1984 look like.
I imagine like Top Gun.
That's kind of what I was thinking is
Kind
the
of what I'm
Top Gun
thinking.
scene.
Yeah, you know.
But the reason they cut it is test audience that saw it found it very awkward.
Right.
And it's mostly because it was between Power Booth's character of Andy and Leah Thompson's Erica.
Yeah, and they felt like a lot older apart, you know.
Exactly the reason
Yeah.
why it was
Yeah.
awkward. Because Leah's character is what? We're going to say 16, maybe 17.
That's what I was going to say. 16, maybe 17 tops. Yeah.
And Powers is definitely much older than that since he is a colonel. So
Yeah.
right
like,
there, you got to
Yeah.
add 20.
Yeah, exactly.
So at least. So I'm just curious. Is the reason you like the 84 film more because it took the time to actually develop a story and less of right into the action?
I think so. It does, you do, like you said, you get more of a story and stuff. And I like the whole us against Russia thing, you know, and the new one, it just felt like, hey, we got better special effects and stuff now too. Watch that, you know. kind of. I mean, it was. I'm not saying it was bad. I mean, I enjoyed both of them, but I do. I guess like a lot of things, if you grow up with one thing and you like that a lot, it's kind of hard to change. So I really enjoy the original, and I like you know, the natural effects and all that stuff. It's
Well, speaking of the effects, this movie had zero, yes, zero CGI
yeah,
and zero miniatures used for all the action sequences. Every explosion you see is at 100% scale.
yeah,
Everything was a practical effect.
yeah. I still like the practical effects, in movies and stuff. That's why I like some of the newer movies are and different things we're seeing in these, even like some of these series shows, they're going back to practical effects, and I like that because it looks to me, I mean, it looks more real. So
Uh, Funny you say that because I was watching another behind the scenes video for a sci-fi series on Paramount Plus, and the prop department and the CGI team really collaborate very well on this show.
mhm.
Special effects are really good, and sometimes the visual effects guys will ask the prop guys, "Hey, can you add some kind of motion here?" Just so it gives them a visual cue where to add the effects.
Oh, sure.
So it's nice having something practical to tie into the digital.
Yeah, I think they're getting really good at tying both now. I mean, the more and more advanced they get, they're getting to be able to tie them both to make it look so
Almost
real.
seamless. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
What else? Now, one thing I do want to point out about casting is they did something very similar with the remake that they did with the original, and that is bringing on young actors who were established but not necessarily well known.
right,
Now, with the remake, it came out in 2012, but it was actually filmed and completed in 2009.
oh, I didn't know that.
And
What took it so long to come out?
MGM's financial troubles,
Oh, okay,
so which they've still been dealing with.
right,
That's why the last three James Bond films, I believe, were co-produced with Sony.
right.
So that's how they got them distributed, at least. But as a result, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the MGM studios were just sold off to Amazon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was
Hey,
just
I may have heard something about that because now Amazon's going to have all the MGM films on
all the
Prime
James
or
Bond
something like
movies.
that. I think
Yeah.
I saw something about that.
Yes. So now Amazon has the film rights to all the James Bond movies, all the true James Bond films. So we don't have access to the 19, what was it, 62, 64, something like that, Casino Royale, which is more of a parody film.
Yeah, it was more of a parody film.
And then it does not include the Never Say Never
Oh, well, that was because
1980s Sean Connery
yeah, that was a
remake of
remake.
Thunderball.
Thunderball. Yeah, exactly. It was they were mad and just there was a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and
If
it's
we
it's terrible anyways. It's so bad.
if we ever do a James Bond special, and it would have to be a special because there's no way we could just,
Oh, yeah.
the best we could do is maybe talk about each Bond
That's what I say.
iteration,
You almost have to do that, talk about each Bond or something. Yeah.
and then we could just dissect their catalog
Yeah.
and then throw George Lazenby in with somebody.
Yeah.
When you're one and done, you're
Well, and Jordan he didn't do a bad job. Not to go off on a tangent. I thought he did well. That was an important movie. It's just Connery is wanting out, then he's on. I want back in. What are you going to do when Connery wants back in?
honestly, I got to go back and rewatch it. So I'm kind of excited that all the James Bond films will be on Prime because
Yeah.
all my Bond Blu-rays are currently in a box somewhere in a storage unit. So back to this. Uh, did you know that the 84 original story is based off of the CIA and War College's worst case scenario?
No.
So yeah, they basically took the concept of what the CIA and the War College kind of had as a potential strategy if this happened and made a story around it.
Well, it's
So
interesting because I think there's always been this worry, of back during the Cold War that they could try to invade and stuff, or someone might try to invade us, even though, I mean, it would be a bad idea. So, I mean, just because, I mean, I know how many weapons everybody's got. I mean, it would, yeah.
yeah, well, I thought
But it's an interesting concept on both ends.
both. Well, I think the original concept enemy for the remake makes it so much more plausible
Hmm.
than the enemy that they chose. Because we weren't originally supposed to have the North Koreans as the big baddies in the 2012 version.
We weren't.
No, it was supposed to be China.
Oh,
And
huh.
doesn't that just make everything make more sense on how they were able to invade and have
Yeah.
so many troops on the ground so quickly than
Yeah.
little tiny North Korea? It was basically MGM realized, oh, we're going to alienate the China market.
Right.
So they
Which is a
spent,
huge, that's a lot of money.
well, when they can get John Cena to do a video apology for saying Taiwan is a country, yes. So they spent almost $2 million to digitally rework every Chinese flag emblem throughout the movie.
Wow.
So every time you see a patch, every time you see a flag in the background, it has been digitally remastered to look like
Wow.
the North Korean flag.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Oh,
Well,
we'll jump into budget
they did a
soon.
good job because I didn't notice that. Not something you're looking for, I guess, but
Well, so this movie actually is in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most acts of violence in a film at the time.
huh, that's crazy. I had no idea. I would have
Yeah.
thought there would have been more violent films out before this one, but I mean,
Well, it works out the way they figured this out. There's like 134 acts per hour. Or if you want to break it down further, it's one act of violence every 2.23 minutes. Now, not to be outdone, did you know the sequel was nominated for 4 different awards, but only won?
oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, it won a very prestigious award.
It wasn't a Razzie, was
It's pretty close.
it?
I don't remember exactly who gave it to him, but the title is the most not necessary sequel or remake that we never asked for.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, I remember when it came out, my wife and I were like, well, why are they doing this? We like the first one so much. But the thing was is like, well, we'll go see it because why not?
Yeah, and as I alluded to earlier, with the remake, they did kind of another thing like they did in the first one,
Yeah.
taking established actors. But
Yeah.
as I said earlier, this came out in 2009.
Right.
So yes, Hemsworth was established, but this was made and
Yeah.
completed before Thor.
Yeah. Exactly.
So he wasn't a household name. This movie came out the same year that Josh, whatever his name, starred with Chris's brother Liam in The Hunger Games.
Right.
So again,
It was just a timing thing, I think, more than anything. Yeah.
it's a timing thing. So
you're talking about bad sequels. Well, another Swayze movie, Point Break. I like the first one. Oh my gosh, the second one is just terrible. It's so bad.
I've been worried about that. Honestly, I have not seen the remake.
Don't even watch it. It's not even worth the time.
Sounds like we should watch it just so we can talk about it on here.
So bad. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like I was thinking you're talking about Helmsworth and stuff. Swayze was kind of that same. He was really taking off in the 80s. I mean, he just was starting to do everything, in that kind of late 80s thing. From Roadhouse to this to The Outsiders.
The Outsiders, then
Blood.
I don't have everything in front of me chronologically, but Outsiders is first. This is second for sure. And then I want to say it was 86. Again, don't quote me right now, but I think that's when Roadhouse came out. 87 was Dances or Dirty Dancing.
What about Youngblood with
89
him in the hockey movie? I'm a big fan of that one.
82 with
Yeah, I think so.
another movie where he co-starred with another co-star from Outsiders.
Yeah, Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe. And for bonus points, what John Wick actor was in Young Bloods?
Oh boy. Oh, Keanu Reeves was in Youngblood. Because I rewatched it long ago and I was like, oh, I forgot he was in this. Yeah.
Yes.
And then again, they paired up
in Point Break.
Point Break.
Now, since we've already alluded a little bit, in the remake, we have 3 Marvel character actors in it. Who do we have?
So you got Hemsworth.
Yep, Thor.
And then let's see here. Oh gosh. Hang on.
Are you IMDBing?
No, I'm just looking at the cast so I can remember.
Okay.
I don't know who else here. Is William Young Lee, is he in?
Nope.
I don't know then.
All right. How about Kenneth Cheery? I'm probably screwing up the last name.
Okay. Yeah. CHOI.
Yeah. He was in Captain America, the first Avengers.
He was. You're right.
Which also means he was in Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Right.
And for bonus points, he plays his, I'm assuming, grandson in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
You haven't seen Homecoming?
I'm behind on all the Spider-Man movies.
Okay.
And I really want to see No Way Home. I've heard that's awesome.
Yeah, I want to see it. I've already spoiled the big.
I already know. Yeah, I got.
And if you don't know by now, you've been living under a rock. Let's face it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he plays the principal at the high school that young Peter Parker goes to in Homecoming.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's in Wolf of Wall Street too, and yeah,
he's on
a lot of stuff.
Fox's 911. But the third one, now this one, I fully admit, is a stretch, and that is Adriana Palet. Oh, I can't even say it.
Yeah, her name's hard to pronounce.
Now I recognize her because she's also on the Orville,
Yep.
but
She was
she
G.I. Joe.
was she did play Barbara Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird, on Agents of Shield.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, a little bit of a stretch, but
It also says she was in John Wick. Oh wait, it says she was in Avengers Infinity War.
was she?
That's what it says in I'm just on the Google here, looking at the films, her filmography, and it says she was in Avengers Infinity War.
Well, it's very possible.
So,
But here's some kind
huh,
of around the world kind of craziness. So in the original script, they wanted to actually have the movie take place in Michigan
oh, instead of Colorado.
instead of Colorado, but then they realized, that would be kind of why would they be invading with Cuban and South American army and Russia in Michigan? They'd have to
Yeah,
get through this Southwest first, so they changed it to Colorado. They used the same town name that they were going to use in Michigan, which is actually a real abandoned mining town in Colorado,
huh.
but they filmed everything in New Mexico.
Oh,
And then, of course, the sequel, they want to do it in the Pacific Northwest, particularly Spokane, Washington, which is a town I'm
yeah.
sure you're very familiar with, just
Oh,
like
yeah.
I am. Did it look like Spokane, Washington? Yeah, I didn't think so either. That's probably because they filmed everything in Michigan.
Oh, hey, we were gonna do this in the original Michigan. Let's just go back there. Let's film it in Michigan this time.
Yeah,
We'll
it'll
call
be
it
fine.
Spokane. We'll call it Spokane though. No.
Yeah, and then they use the anchor from actually Seattle's, I think PBS's station, to do
Yeah.
that. If you're
The,
receiving this message,
right.
you're now no longer in an area controlled by the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was an actual newscaster from
Oh,
Seattle, but you
at
wouldn't be able
least
to catch that newscast in Spokane.
right.
Different markets.
Yep, exactly. But no one will know.
Nobody
Let's,
will
let's
know.
just no, we don't know.
So, what do you think of the fact that in the original we have an Air Force Colonel, Annie Turner, and
Mhm.
then in the sequel we get a Sergeant Major Andy Turner?
I didn't think that was that big a deal, you know. Um, yeah, it didn't I mean that part. I mean, I was just like, they got to change some things, so to try to make it, you know, not exactly a copy, a new interpretation and stuff.
Right.
And I'm blanking here. I know like Helmsworth was a Marine in that one,
Did you
but
like
like
how obvious he was a Marine with the giant
you
bold
SMC,
marker USMC?
yeah, Marines. But I like
Yeah.
that the fact I did like that they made him a Marine in that, like that he was like not just hunting and stuff, and like that he had actual war experience. I guess that makes things more believable in my mind.
I don't know. In the original, they weren't originally trying to be a guerrilla army.
Right? Yeah, it was just
It was kind of forced upon them because those three sightseeing Russian officers stumbled upon them and then they had to kill the Russians.
right,
And then in retaliation, the Russians killed their parents.
right.
And then in the sequel, all of a sudden, the great commander of the area
Yeah,
takes up the mayor and
their dad.
the sergeant,
Yeah,
police sergeant.
yeah,
Why would the general commander, whatever you want to call him, be taking these guys up for a handful of teenagers.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, why do you care?
Are you really wanting us to believe that you really want these teenagers because they hit your Hummer?
Yeah,
So
they're reaching. They're reaching.
it was a bit of a reach. Uh, I do like what screen time we do have for Brett Collins as the dad. He was a good accelerator for the plot.
Yeah,
I also like the fact that we get to see Maddie, stumble at the football game that we kind of hear about in the original.
right. Yeah,
But, they do a lot of nice homage scenes
yeah,
from the remake to the original. Like when the three pop up,
yeah. That's
that is a
that's a cool
total.
scene. They totally, yeah. They're like, okay, we're gonna do that again, just a little bit, a different area, but total homage to the original. And that's such a cool scene in the original, so they might as well,
Yeah. Uh, what did you think of the original ending of the 84? Was it a positive? Did the US survive? Kind of, what are your
Well,
feelings?
I guess I don't know. For me, gosh, I mean, I guess I kind of always thought that there might be a sequel, personally.
With the
Like,
original?
yeah,
Okay.
like that we might get, because it just kind of, the war wasn't over, right? I mean, it was still like,
Well, I would say they did the Postman ending. Uh, Obviously they did it first, so we'll call it the Red Dawn ending,
the Red
the
Dawn.
Postman, where they had the last battle on the playground. Jed and Matt are going back to the same playground that they used to meet up their dad at.
Right.
Matt's obviously dying. Jed's been hit a couple times. The Cuban colonel kind of let him go in peace at the very end. And then we get that memorial rock scene.
Right.
That is
With
the
Leah Thompson and stuff.
well, we don't actually see him. We see Leah Thompson, and I couldn't even remember the kid's name at that
Yeah.
point because he was such a. You see him throughout the movie, but
Yeah.
couldn't quite tell who he was supposed to be at the end because Robert was killed.
Yeah.
Uh, Daryl was. Well, let's face it. In the original, they felt betrayed by him,
Yeah.
and then in the sequel, they made it less about. So it turns out in the original, Daryl's father's the one who turned him in,
Oh, okay.
and they made him swallow a bug. And in the sequel, as they're fleeing, he gets partly tackled and he gets injected with that tracker.
Right.
So he's unknowingly
The bug.
the bug.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of a interesting way of playing that.
Yeah.
So and then letting Daryl get gear and then they drive off. So do you think Daryl survives in the second one or is he dead?
I don't know. I guess assuming that he's gonna make it, but because you don't know. So I mean,
Yeah.
I guess for me, I'm always like, yeah, he'll make it. You know,
Now, did you catch who plays Daryl in the sequel?
wasn't it? Isn't it Swayze in the
In the
sequel?
sequel,
Yeah,
who plays Daryl?
I can't remember.
Don't look it up.
Oh, I can't remember then. You're gonna have to tell me.
Connor Cruz.
Cruz.
Yeah, that would be Tom's son.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's Tom's son? I didn't know that.
Tom and Nicole Kidman. It's their
Oh,
adopted
my
son.
God, it is. It's their adopted son. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
had
didn't
no
quite look
idea.
like his dad, did he?
No, I'm like, I don't remember. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you're looking at his IMDb page, he doesn't have a ton of credits there.
Yeah, I am looking at it. And I read down in 7 pounds, whatever 7 pounds is. I'm sure dad and mom helped him get a
A little
hey,
bit of a leg up, yeah.
hey, you'd like to try this. You mind?
So
I you know how like they love making sequels in the 80s. So I always just thought that we might get one, or some kind, because it didn't feel to me like the war was totally over. But
no, the war wasn't quite over, but the story of the Wolverines
all right, yeah, I
was
guess it
kind of
kind of
over. Where
yeah,
in the sequel or the remake, Robert still is alive. Jed gets kind of the most like, did that just really happen? Death scene.
all right,
Um, and then all of a sudden, Matt's giving the same speech that Jed said at kind of at the beginning that, when it's in your backyard and you're fighting
right.
for your family,
It's totally
rah
yeah.
rah hoo hoo.
This
So
is our land, and this is our yeah.
yeah, I like how they got Erica's Mustang back somehow, put a minigun on it, and they go,
Why wouldn't you?
yeah, why not? Let's make a prequel to Death Race 2000. But they definitely made it seem like in the remake they left the ending open
Right.
for a sequel,
For a sequel.
which when I tell you the budget and gross, you can see why we never got one. So I don't know. I think the second one had a little more of a happy ending because you
But yeah,
get
the ending in the first one, I mean, it's kind of gloomy. Like
it was
war is
gloomy but positive.
right.
Where
Like
the
it
second
shows you
one,
how bad war is and stuff, and like that, invading our country would still, I mean, and as kids, I think it shows how hard that would be, what they had to do.
yeah, and in the sequel because how quick all the action sequences are. Like, really, how much time from the start of the film to they've recovered that phone and Andy's like, come on, you guys could get a lift. You've done enough. You've inspired enough people.
Yeah.
Take a ride back to freedom.
Yeah.
No, we're going to keep the fight going. Okay, happy sequel land
Right.
ending. So I don't know. The second one is I like how they actually incorporated the original Jed and Tony relationship from the beginning, so it all made sense. And all of a sudden, oh look, they're going to finally have their kiss. Oh no, Jed gets shot in the head. Like,
Yeah.
wow,
Oh, you went there. Okay.
yeah. Now, I would argue at this point that of our Wolverines in the sequel, Josh Peck is probably the most well known out of the group, and he doesn't even look like himself at the time
Right.
because he's fresh off of that, what was it, Josh and Drake show on Nickelodeon,
Yeah, I think so.
and he was
Yeah,
definitely a little
Josh and Drake, I
heavier.
think that was right.
So Josh actually went to football camp in LA to learn how to play football because
Oh,
being a heavier guy,
yeah.
he never was ever interested in anything about sports.
Oh, interesting.
So it's because of this movie that he got into fitness and
Huh.
exercise and performed his football stunts at the beginning of the film.
Well, that's cool.
So,
You hear about that, like in these actors, they go to like the different to learn about that and how to act it in football school or army school or, you know, different things to.
well, in the original, they actually had an 8-week Green Beret training
Oh,
boot camp, and Leah Thompson is famously known for saying this was her favorite film set to be on.
oh, that's cool.
So,
Wow. Over Back to the Future. But she probably enjoyed it with all the action and everything. I mean, it seems like it would be a fun movie to be in, you know.
well, in the original, they actually trained with real guns, so they knew how to handle them when they had the prop guns.
Right. That makes sense. Makes it look more real.
So let's talk budget really quick.
Sure.
So the original, $17 million. Opening weekend, a little over 8 million.
Oh, nice.
Now, here, the gross and world gross are the same number because we didn't separate them. It was
Oh,
just gross back then. So it grossed off of that 17 million, a $38 million return.
that's pretty darn good. Doubled your money.
Now,
And then
2012 or 29 or 2009 if you prefer, because
sure.
estimated budget $65 million.
Whoa, I was gonna say 30 million, but whoa, 65 million. Dang.
Opening weekend. You got a number?
4 million.
14.
Oh, 14. Okay.
14.2.
I gotta admit, I didn't go see this the sequel in the theater. I waited until it came out and then I watched it.
What are you saying? You're not part of the 44.8 million that it grossed in the US?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so you're not part of the 50.9
Ooh.
world gross.
Is that the overall?
Overall 50 million.
Oh, it didn't even make
Didn't
budget.
make budget back.
Oh, dang.
So Red Dawn 2? No.
We're gonna put that on the shelf and never talk about it again.
So yeah, it
Ouch.
was ouchy.
That
Ouchie.
sucks.
So overall, I think we're both in agreement. The original is the way to go.
I think so too. I mean, and if you're watching this, watch them both. Comment below and let us know like what you think if you like which one.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm on this one for sure. Original, and usually on most things, the original is what I like. So
Just for fun, there is one classic and remake. I've seen them both,
oh,
and there's one I prefer.
I've got one too.
Okay, we'll talk about this off screen.
Might be the same one.
So stay tuned. We're still in a little bit of a debate on what we're going to do next month. So stay tuned. Let's put it that way. One way or the other, we got something tied for next week or next month, I should say.
Absolutely.
And Luke, once again, thanks for joining me on this.
Glad to be back.
And let us know in the comments below on which you prefer, the 84 or the 2012.
2009, 12 ish.
Ish.